Well, thank you everybody for coming. Also, Jamie, thank you. Val, thank you. I think we all owe one another a big round of applause for being here. So I'm going to share with you many things, because I always do. And I'm going to jump into an interview I did just last night on the Granada Forum radio show. It will be up on our YouTube video channel. Again, I run stopthecrime.net and also primarywater.org and smartmetersmurder.com. And I would highly recommend that you learn about water. If those of you who have not yet heard me, you need to understand we're not running out of water. And they're coming after our water with a vengeance. And because they're telling us that we're running out of water, they're going to be building more wastewater treatment plants. And again, the vocabulary needs to change. What is waste? Waste is urine, poop, and pharmaceuticals, RSIs, and other undisclosed contaminants. Those are going to be injected into our uphill streams and rivers and become a blend in our reservoirs, and then pumped in to your municipal water supplies. Now, where did I get that information? Well, I got it from the World Bank, because I really study the World Bank documents, because that's where this is coming from and this is where the funds come from. But I picked this up in Santa Rosa, where I am, about water. Okay, just to let you know, right now there's an enormous deployment of wireless water meters in your sidewalks. Predominantly here in California, they're in your sidewalks, and they have rolled out. There are hidden antennas throughout our communities right now that are small. They're not involved with the 5G, it's another layer of frequencies. And no one is talking about that. No one is really aware of the electrification that's developing exponentially around us. So on top of the smart meters and the electric meters, we have now the wireless smart meters. And the intention around the meters are for all of you to buy wireless kitchen faucets and shower heads and be controlled, because by 2020, we have been told via law that none of you can use over 55 gallons of water per day. We've had people attempt to see what using 55 gallons of water per day would look like, and single people that live in some homes in Rohnert Park here in Northern California could only get it down to 190 gallons per day per person. So they called the water company and they said, we've been practicing and we can't get it down to that 55 gallons per day. They said, what do we do? And they said, well, you cannot water your outside plants. So what do we know about reducing plants? It reduces oxygen. What are we being told in every climate change plan that I talk about ad nauseum? I think many of you have heard me talk about the climate action plans, but who hasn't? Raise your hand. I need to know what kind of time I want to spend on this. Okay, well, I'll just spend a few minutes, because I cannot underscore enough for all of you to look and see what your climate action plan says in your city. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things that it says right here in Berkeley, because you need to know what the plan is for Pacific Gas and Electric. Rothschild is not being the scapegoat. Rothschild runs the government here. That's Rothschild. So PG&E is not being used as a fall guy. PG&E is moving out of energy systems as we have known it in the past. This is a dumping of the system. And as we're turned off during the red flag fire warnings and don't have electricity, This is just a pre-planned plan for blackouts. And okay, a pre-planned plan for blackouts. In the climate action plans that I have read, they're saying because of global warming and climate change, we're going to have significant heat events throughout the entire country, which will become far more combustible, and it will bring down the power. It's not going to be an EMP, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. It's going to be de-energizing the power grid system. But here in Berkeley, it says that there is the need for cleaner, greener electricity grid, and that's a key component to achieving state and local greenhouse gas reduction targets. It's not working. Okay, so. Okay, so tell me if the sound is good. Like this? Is this better? Can everybody hear me then? Okay, how am I? Is this better? Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know that, because I don't hear that. Thanks. So what we're being told in the Berkeley Climate Action Plan is that the city of Berkeley supports the governor's call and urges Pacific Gas and Electric to achieve the standard of reducing greenhouse gases. Now here's the plan. They're saying that the plan is going to obligate the investor-owned utilities, which is Pacific Gas and Electric, to increase the share of renewable energy sources, wind, solar, and geothermal. So let's talk about wind and solar. All of you know that the weather is completely controlled and we have massive increased global dimming. They're setting us up to asset strip us to employ and deploy solar when they intend for massive increased solar dimming, and our solar panels will not work. In fact, many of the engineers that design the solar panels are going off of the general plans in not identifying the solar dimming aspect of what's happening overhead. So we're now realizing if you're going to limp along with solar for the time being and try to get off a de-energized grid if you're in the country for PG&E, you're going to need to put in more solar panels. But the real goal is to replace wind and solar with geothermal. Have you heard the geothermal tour that we've posted on stopthecrime.net? It's literally heartbreaking what we discovered. Right in the hills above Santa Rosa, we have the planet's, the Earth's largest geothermal plant. And they are all over the world. And the World Bank is saying this is going to be one of the sources of replacement of electricity. What do? Well, they cause earthquakes on a daily basis because the geothermal plant above Santa Rosa, they're fracking it with the wastewater treatment plant from Santa Rosa. They have 40 miles of pipe going up to the Mayacamas mountain range above Santa Rosa, and they're injecting wastewater and pharmaceuticals into the boreholes of the geothermal operation. Some of the boreholes are 13,000 feet in depth. The majority are 8,000. This was started by PG&E, aka now Calpine. So what we see here in the Berkeley plan is the discussion of geothermal. You need to understand what that means. I just told you. They're replacing wind and solar as a renewable for geothermal because we're not going to get the benefits of the solar. I cannot underscore enough for those of you to look at your climate action plan. People ask me all the time, well, Debra, where should we move? Where's a safe place to go? And I tell them, well, look at your climate action plan and you'll find out what kind of weather event they're going to launch on you. I had someone email the website. They told me they couldn't find the town of Bedford in Indiana, the climate action plan. They couldn't find it. So you go to your search engine, you type in your city, followed by climate action plan. If they don't have it in your small town, then type in the next largest city next to you. You can also type in the state, or you can type in the federal corporation, which is the umbrella plan for all of us, even if you can't find it locally. But let me just go over a couple of things and why these plans are important, because it tells you the kinds of weather events you're going to face if you don't reduce your greenhouse gas emissions and your CO2 emissions. And it's diabolical to read these plans because they talk about increased vector, mosquitoes, Zika. They talk about increased Lyme disease. And they tell you that unless you reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, you're going to have fires, reduced water supply, your power's going to be cut off, and you're going to get a dust bowl and more. These plans are vital. These plans are absolutely vital to understand because these are genocide plans. These are plans of global disruption. These are global plans, and they're everywhere. And they literally have us believing that we have to reduce our CO2 emissions, which is causing the strangulation or suffocation of the planet. They're reducing oxygen. They're reducing oxygen. Now, when I used to think of that, I thought, well, I wasn't really sure what that meant until I recently went to a Santa Rosa City Council meeting and looked at the front page of the Press Democrat right during the holidays, where Santa Rosa hired a new accounting firm, Ernst & Young, E-R-N-S-T and Young, a London-based accounting firm. And what I discovered there, and I have many YouTubes up, for all of you that want more information on these YouTubes, I just posted one yesterday. It's called Nuke the People and Cook the Books. Nuke the People and Cook the Books. What we find is that we're being now charged for air, and there are planned power outages. We're going to go down. Okay? It's going to be under the guise of vegetation, the lack of vegetation removal from the power lines throughout the country. I was looking at the nationwide tree trimming firms, and they're all hired by the globalists. This is a setup to tell us that our outages were due to power line disruption. This is all a setup. Also, yesterday, we were just told by the new CEO here, Gavin Newsom of CEO Inc. California, that there's going to be a water tax increase on water tax. It's a water tax heist. That's what it is. Now, all of you, I hope, know about primary water. Water is a clean, renewable. We're not running out. I know many people that now have drilled and literally acquired primary water. I can tell you that many people are drilling for wells. And I would recommend any of you that can drill for a well, go to your neighbors in country areas and even help support and pay for a well drilling. It's not as expensive. Yeah, it's not as expensive as the typical well drilling is because they used to always gravel pack and sleeve the wells. You don't need to do that when you're drilling for primary water. You just have to drill past the alluvial soil, which is the soil that sloughs off as you're beginning the borehole. And then once you get into the rock material where the water starts to percolate up from, you don't need to gravel pack. In fact, gravel packing and sleeving prevents the water from coming in the borehole. Sadly, our well drilling teams don't know this. It's like going to a medical doctor and asking for health benefits. They don't know, but they have the equipment. They have the equipment. Yeah, the depth of the drilling will depend on the conditions, the geographical conditions of the bore site. Typically about 350 feet, or from 150 to 350 feet. You can hit. I will talk to you when we ask. We'll write that down and we'll go over questions because I can.
Are they going to start putting meters on those wells?
Yeah, okay, so let's write down questions and we'll field it at the end because there's still quite a bit of information I want to cover and I can answer those questions. But yes, they do want to meter wells as well, and of course, as you know, we cannot allow that. So for those of you that are on wells, you need to start building some type of protection around your well and padlock it. And refuse anyone on your property to monitor your property for any reason. Do not let anybody on your property, in your house at all, period. Keep them away. So, yeah, that's what you can do. That's one of the things you must do, actually. So, you must prevent home invasion. And what the climate action plans talk about, that Val was talking about, is creating a new green energy business world. It's a complete global disruption. This is global. It's not just here. It's everywhere. And the creation of new jobs by requiring everybody here and everybody else retrofit your current homes with the new green energy. Faucets, fixtures, heat and air, added insulation. Many of these things are not a bad thing to do.
Yeah. And they want to put all of us on a smart grid, though, and they want everything connected.
That's the point. Okay, it's the grid. It's the Rothschild electric grid and the Rothschild water grid. But what has occurred throughout the country here in the United States is our local incorporated governments that do not serve us. And it's a franchise, as Jamie was explaining. It's like a McDonald's franchise. Our governments are all the same color, pretty much all the same layout, but they all serve up the same menu. All the same menu. So keep that in mind. I've gone from city to city to city meeting, and oftentimes it's the same agenda at all the cities. And that's important to recognize. So as you think you are speaking at a microphone, like I might be talking to all of you as the city right now, airing myself to you, all it is it's a psychological release. Allowing you behind the microphone as a psychological and emotional release, and allowing you to think that you have any impact at all, or that you do have impact and you don't. So I can't underscore enough the illusion that we've been trapped in, and I know many of you now are aware of what that is. I do think the signs on cars is a good idea, the magnets. On stopthecrime.net, we have had magnets in the past, and we'll be advocating those again. So I would certainly urge all of you to, if you haven't signed up for the email blasts out on stopthecrime.net, and you don't regularly look at our YouTube videos, I would suggest you do. We're rolling them out as quickly as we can. It is absolutely imperative to understand the water fix is in. Here's the water fix. The water fix is, again, building millions of dollars, trillions of dollars worth of wastewater treatment plants throughout the country. The water fix is for desalinization. And there's nothing they have no concept of what they will do with the salt water sludge. It's all sludge, it's all poisons. In fact, there's magazines I pick up, builder trade magazines. It's full of the new green energy jobs. For those of you that want to go and see what a green energy expo looks like on February 22nd in Santa Rosa at the Vets building, they will be hosting a con job of green energy, the transition to what we're all going to be forced to do. Now, when I mean forced to implement these new green energy requirements in your homes, the EPA documents tell us, number one, if you run out of water, which they're planning to have you do, the health department will come out and tell you your home is no longer able to be lived in. It's not safe.
Oh my God.
And you will be relocated to a place where there's potable water. That's what the EPA documents tell us. So don't run out of water. If you can get to primary water and you're in the rural area, do that. This magazine here, I can pick up any magazine, anywhere, any place, and I can find out different things. And this says using the sun to solve the drought. In the midst of California's ongoing geoengineered drought, researchers at the University of California's Advanced Solar Technology Institute, UC Solar, at UC Medford, are turning to an unlikely ally to help solve the problem of water availability for Californians' farmlands. The sun. Any adaptation of solar technology will help with climate change in the long term because it reduces our use on fossil fuels. Now, I hope all of you realize our fuels never came from dead dinosaurs or from plant material. Okay, that's another psyops. And I think there's some great YouTubes out there to explain that to you. The Origins of Oil is a very good YouTube to listen to. But they say that because they need to reduce fossil fuels, that's what all of the climate action plans say also. So immediately you have to look at the underlying psyops and everything. But this goes on to say, because of climate change in the long term, of increasing climate change, we're going to need to reduce our use of fossil fuels. And they say that they're going to create solar water distillation. That will be cheaper and more accessible and cleaner. But they're concerned about what do they do with the salt. Okay, they're creating more poisons and toxins, and that's the plan. More sludge. So as you look at your climate action plans, I've got to tell you a little bit about the Butte County Climate Action Plan. I pulled this just after Butte County was targeted and burned out off the Butte County website. I was referring to it on a number of radio shows that I was giving, and then about a week and a half ago, it was gone. It wasn't on the Butte County website any longer. So it took me several days of getting them to correct their planning department's phone number to keep me from going into a Caribbean cruise. They have the wrong phone number on the Butte County website for the planning department, for the head director. So I told them I think they should correct that because I was confused about why I was ending up in Florida with a survey about a Caribbean cruise. Then I asked them, and where is the climate action plan? I had just printed it out a week prior. And they looked and they said, well, the link is dead. I said, well, I know the link is dead. So why did I print this out? Because I was very interested in knowing what they said they were going to do to Butte County and to the town of Paradise and the other cities within Butte County, and they did it. They said as a result of unfettered lack of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and their carbon footprint, that they would suffer severe fires and storms and decreased water and more. But what they also said in this plan is that it didn't matter how much greenhouse gas reduction they did, that it would not stop the changing of the weather. Now this is really the first plan that I saw that written so succinctly. And that's why I thought it was really important, because we all know that climate change is weather control. And we all know that we're being slaughtered right now with weather weapons. And I'm looking at the storms that are pulsing Kansas and the Carolinas right now, and what's the message? Stay home. Don't drive. Well, I want to tell you that's why we're all here. We can't stay home. We have to be together. Isolation is the key for disconnecting us and keeping us in a reality that's being shaped on the news. And I want to talk a little bit about this. Beyond Traffic 2045. I want to, and I referenced this a number of times on different radio shows, but I also have a YouTube up called Coastlines Under Attack. I hope all of you have listened to that. If you haven't, I can't underscore enough for you to listen to Coastlines Under Attack. I didn't know the severity of the assault with all levels of the military attacking our coastlines. We are being dissolved economically here around the coastlines and in California. This is a planned attack. And Fukushima, the United States will become a Fukushima event with the fact that our systems are not hardened. They've intentionally. Who is the they? The utility companies have lobbied against the government, the Rothschild and the corporate-controlled government, not to harden the grid. Well, there have been many doctors. Dr. Richard Pry, PRY, was one that has gone to Washington, D.C. many times. I remember back before I didn't know what I now know, my husband and I went to Washington, D.C. We went to the various offices. We were handing out geoengineering flyers for Rosalind Peterson. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. And we were sending and handing out smart meter flyers. We thought if only they knew, they would stop this. And nothing happened. And then we would go to meetings. We went to large meetings through Northern California with many, many people. Hundreds of people would sometimes attend some of the meetings we would go to in San Francisco. And we were being encouraged to kick ICLEI out. Well, that's UN Agenda 21. We really thought in the beginnings that we could kick ICLEI out. We really did. Until we learned we couldn't.
Don't we wish we never heard of ICLEI? Oh my God.
Well, International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. So let's talk about the burn 'em up list, as I call it. And let's talk about the fire map for California. I have a map up here as well, somewhere. But I call it the burn 'em up list for California because we went up during the holidays up to Nevada City, which is only about 70 miles from the town of Paradise. And when we returned back on the front page of the Press Democrat, our local paper, they said that the town of the Nevada City residents were quite concerned about fires. And because they have exactly the same setup that has been done in Butte County. And when we were driving up there over the holidays, it was extremely heavily chemtrailed. You could feel the electricity, the electromagnetification in the environment. You could feel it. It was pulsating. And you could go into town. Everybody had smart meters deployed. And we know that that was part of the house-to-house recognition, not only in Paradise, but in the Tubbs fire. In fact, all of the fires, we know that Rothschild's ability to pulse those smart meters can cause explosions. So for those of you that need to confirm this, type in smart meters and fires, or smart meters and explosions. You'll see a countless list over the years of smart meters causing explosions. In fact, the first thing you should look at if you have an appliance that goes down is whether you've got a smart meter, because they're pulsing these things. And they're doing that deliberately. It's a kill grid. So I have the burn 'em up list. I'm happy to go over it briefly, but I want to talk about also something else. So I'll just go over the burn 'em up list briefly. Cities for which CAL FIRE has made recommendations on very high hazard severity zones. And they list, I'm going to just only name the cities and the counties. I'm not going to, well, I will, a few. Alameda County, there are 5 cities. Berkeley, right here. Oakland, Pleasanton, San Leandro. Butte County, well, they have Chico and Paradise. Costa Costa County, they have Richmond. El Dorado, they have Placerville, South Lake Tahoe. They have Clear Lake. Of course, they burned Clear Lake a few times. Don't think because you've been burned once, you won't be burned again. We've seen that they burn us again. There is Clear Lake. There is Agora Hills, Arcadia in Southern California. Beverly Hills is on this list, as well as Culver City, Diamond Bar, Glendora, Irwindale, Los Angeles. And then there is In San Bernardino, there's Big Bear Lake. Those of you that know Big Bear Lake, I'm not going to go over this. It is immense. It represents over 3 million houses in California. The homelessness is intended. The homeless community that we see exponentially exploding is a plan. It's a plan. Make no mistake. It's a plan. So, what I want to talk about is what we're seeing developing in our cities right now. Many of you have heard me talk about resilient cities. I have a YouTube up called Kill Cities, Rothschild and Rockefeller. And this poor guy, this city council guy in Washington, D.C., by the name of Trayon White, referred to my YouTube during a city council meeting. And he said, you know, we're a resilient city right here, and that's controlled by Rockefeller and Rothschild. And did you know that actually the Federal Reserve is not federal? And we're actually also being sprayed with aerosols. And that became a write-up in the Washington Post, where my YouTube was named, my name was there as a conspiracy theorist in Northern California. And YouTube took the video down. We were able to get it back up. It is up there, but it has a YouTube notice that the YouTube community has deemed it advised to press a special button before you can watch it. So the count of that YouTube at the time it was taken down was, in the hundreds of thousands with lots of comments. They've disabled the comments, and I think the count is gone as well. It's called Kill Cities by Rothschild and Rockefeller. And what we discussed there was the press release by Rothschild that they were coming in to restructure the United States. They're here. They're restructuring the United States. And we're being moved into mega cities. Not all of us. Most of us will be dead. I've certainly talked a lot about genocide, and it's a word that is hard for me to say, because we really are in a genocide plan. We have been. The report from Iron Mountain talks about the plan to reduce the population on an annual basis. It also talks about the intention of poisoning the food and the water supply and the air. And when I found on the front page of the Press Democrat that Santa Rosa had hired Ernst & Young to come in with a consultant to help them figure out the complexities with their budget that is now on reserves after the fires. And I looked into Ernst & Young, and I found out that they're commoditizing all of the natural resources. We're talking the soil. We're talking about even placing insurance policies on coral reefs, because we're all responsible for killing off the planet. So now we have to have insurance policies. Let's look at insurance policies. I've talked to people in Nevada City that are trying to escape the doom they know will happen, as happened in Paradise. They can't even sell their homes. Why? Because the insurance has tripled. They can't, their homes keep falling out of escrow because people don't want to move up there and pay $600 to $800 a month for an insurance policy that doesn't cover them entirely anyway. And then they don't know in a year from now if they'll get insurance. You can't get a mortgage without insurance. Think about that. This is collapsing the real estate market in California. This is leading to more homelessness. This is leading to more civil unrest because we have by and large been implanted with microchips through the smart dust for over the years. Most of you, I hope, know this. And Dr. Ronnie Kilde's book talks about this. There are many, many books that talk about this. I was trying to get Dr. Ronnie Kilde up as a guest on the Rinse radio show when I had my program there for a year and a half. And I was talking to her about scheduling. but she was going to Belgium to a targeted individual conference, and she was dead a month later. She died in February of 2015. She was killed. And this book is a manuscript that she put together and worked with the only publisher she could find out of Ontario, Canada. We will be getting some of these books, and you can get them through stopthecrime.net. That is the best way to get these books. And again, listen to the interview that I did with Bodan, who was the publisher. That will be on Stop the Crime next week.
What's the name?
The difficulty in getting this kind of information out is hard. They can change computers as you're typing. They can change what you're writing. She was heavily targeted. They were trying to kill her by putting a cover over her chimney in Finland where she lived and asphyxiate her, poison her food and her refrigerator. They killed her family, and they finally killed her. So the greatest tribute I think we could do for Dr. Ronnie Kildee, who spent 30 years in Europe going to meetings all over the world about technologies that at the time none of us knew about. None of us knew about remote viewing. None of us knew about travel, time travel, and none of us knew about where he had already been in the stars. So you can read that in her book.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Bright Light on Black Shadows by Dr. Ronnie, R-A-U-N-I, Kildee, K-I-L-D-E. I would also recommend that you watch her YouTubes as well. An amazing woman, and she gave her life, and she spent over 30 years in compiling a book that is really front to back what has happened. And I can tell you, because she was fluent in 5 languages, and she and Bodan were both more fluent in their home languages, this book has some typos and things that would potentially make you think that it's not good reading material. Get over it. Okay, I can only say get over it. Read beyond some of the typos. I wish that they had gotten the spelling right, though, for smartmetersmurder.com, because they referred to our website in here. I guess here's the map on the fire hazard severity zones, so you can come up and take some photographs of that if you like, and I'll put that with the list, the burn 'em up list, I call it. So you can take a photograph of that as well. I'll leave all of these documents up here. And I guess I'll leave you with the idea, what Ronnie Kildee said in the last chapter of the book. She said, we have to love one another. We have to live day by day, one day at a time, in right conduct. We have to be brave. We have to be fearless. We have to do always the next best right thing. And we need to stay together with our communities. In fact, when I was interviewing Bodan last night from Canada about Ronnie's book, he almost started to cry. He was crying because